Hey guys, so today I'm here to tell you the story of how I got pregnant at 19. So if you want to hear that story, let's get started.
So today the started about...
So in a previous video, I mentioned my boyfriend William. That's what we're gonna call him. And I was dating William. We've been dating for about a month. Yes, we only dated a month before we became intimate. Looking back now, that was way too soon. I personally was not ready, but that's just what happened. And here's how I became pregnant. I assumed, for lack of a better term, pulling out. He was not, and I never talked to him about it. He never talked to me about it. I guess he assumed I was on the pill and I wasn't. We never talked about contraceptive. We just made assumptions that the other person was taking care of it. I also do not recommend doing that. You should definitely talk about contraceptive measures with your partner. We hit the next month and my period doesn't come. Like, there is no period. And I've never tracked my period, so I'm just like, oh, it must be a few days late. I wasn't worried about it at all because, as I said before, I assumed that he was pulling out. Eventually, my period was 3 weeks late, and I'd kind of forgotten about it. This was the summer before my junior year of college, and I'd kind of forgotten about my period. I had just moved out of my house for the first time, and I was living with some roommates. So there was a lot going on. I was also working as much as possible to pay rent and to save money for school. I was on really bad terms with my mom. Well, so eventually I realized that, hey, I might actually be pregnant. And I was terrified. I was honestly terrified. So I went and got a pregnancy test and I took it and it was positive. And I was at my house at this time. So I start freaking out. I immediately take the test and I put it inside of my Bible and I shut the Bible on it and I stick that in my room. And I drive to my boyfriend's house and I tell him I'm pregnant. I just walk in and say those words and he had a really weird response. He was actually excited. He was like, oh, we'll get married, we're gonna have a baby, this is gonna be great. And so I started to get excited too, but I was still really scared. I'm like, I'm in college, how am I gonna do this? I can't be pregnant, we're not married, they're gonna kick me out. Because I went to Liberty University at that time, which is a Christian college. So I didn't know what was gonna happen with that. And we didn't tell anybody. We told nobody. So fast forward about 9 to 10 weeks, I wasn't showing. I didn't have any nausea, which now I know those are signs that your baby is not gonna make it. I knew I wanted to keep this baby, and for some reason I knew it was a girl and that she would have red hair. We had a very dependent relationship. I'll have to make more videos about William, where we like kind of fed off each other's emotions, highs and lows. I really don't know how to explain it. So we were just on this like, we're gonna have a baby, this is amazing kind of high. By the way, we had no idea what having a baby like entailed, so it would have been a disaster if we had a baby together, like literally a disaster. I was around 9 weeks when I woke up bleeding and I just knew. I knew I was having a miscarriage. My mom previously, when she gave my sister and I the talk, had told us the story of when she lost a baby. I knew what was happening. So I'm kind of terrified again. I think I'm gonna die, or I think that, you know, my baby's dying. I don't know what to do. I haven't been to the doctor. I haven't even told my mother. So I decided to call the one person that I always go to when something's wrong, when I'm going through a really hard time. I call my aunt and I tell her that I'm pregnant and I think I'm having a miscarriage. Unfortunately, my phone dies because I was staying at my boyfriend's house a lot. So my phone dies, I can't reach my aunt. And the last thing she heard is that I'm pregnant and bleeding and probably having a miscarriage. So she doesn't call my mom, which I'm really grateful for. But my mom was really upset about that later. She's like, your aunt thought you were having a miscarriage and bleeding everywhere and she couldn't reach you because your phone died. She should have called me. Well, she didn't, and So my boyfriend and I are sitting there, we're trying to work through this, we're trying to talk and figure out what's going on, and I'm just like, we need to go to the ER, we need to go to the hospital. So we do go to the ER. It's my boyfriend and me, and I think his brother. He lived with his brother, so he was there during this whole fiasco of we might be having a miscarriage and we're pregnant. So we go to the hospital, and I am having a miscarriage, and at that point, I just want my mom. Like, that's all I want is my mom. So I call her, and on my boyfriend's phone, I didn't have my aunt's number like memorized, but I had my mom's number memorized, so I can use his phone. So I called my mom, and I told her in the same sentence that I was pregnant, and I'm having a miscarriage, and I'm at the ER. She handled this very well, considering. She showed up at the ER, she held my hand, never once did I hear a word of judgment come out of her mouth, and then she took me home. And that's the story of how I got pregnant at 19. I do not recommend getting pregnant before you're ready. I was not ready. This would have not been a good thing to have a baby. I am sad that I ended up losing my child. I blamed myself for a long time, but I did go on when I married my now husband to have 2 more miscarriages. And I learned that I have celiac disease and MTHFR and other autoimmune conditions that I didn't know about back then. And it probably wasn't very good for my gestation of a child. And this basically destroyed William's and I's relationship. Things were always awkward and always weird after that. We ended up dating for about 6 more months, and then his parents made him move. His parents had moved to a different state. I can't remember where it is. And we tried to keep up a long distance relationship for like a month, but everything fell apart. It wasn't working. Which, now looking back, I'm glad, because he was not my type. It would have not been a good relationship. It would not have worked. I would not have been happy with him. And who I'm with now, I'm really happy with, and I have 2 wonderful, sweet children now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story time, and I will see you next week. Bye.